A lifeless puppy was abandoned at a campsite, but a stray cat performed an extraordinary act. The cat, a weathered survivor with ginger fur, was known to some park rangers as Tawny, a name earned from the bits of food they occasionally left for him. He lounged lazily, his orange coat gleaming under the sunlight that filtered through the trees. Perched atop a mossy boulder, he surveyed a clearing nestled deep within West Virginia's Cedarwind National Forest. The air was cool, infused with the aroma of pine and moist soil, a soothing familiarity for the lone feline. This corner of the forest, near the sleepy town of Sheltervale, was his domain. He knew every concealed den, every bird's perch, every spot where a careless camper might leave a scrap behind. The previous day, the clearing had buzzed with laughter and the savory smell of barbecued meat. Sheltervale Community Chapel had hosted its yearly summer picnic, and Tawny had observed from afar, his amber eyes sharp, calculating the chance for leftovers. He'd learned to bide his time, waiting for the humans to depart before approaching. Now, only traces remained: trampled grass, scattered paper plates and napkins dancing in the wind, and the lingering scent of hot dogs and burgers in the air. Tawny leapt from the boulder, his movements smooth and quiet, and began his routine patrol, sniffing the edges of the clearing, whiskers twitching. He uncovered a partially eaten hot dog bun, a handful of stray potato chips, and a small chunk of fried chicken, which he consumed eagerly. It wasn't a banquet, but it dulled his hunger. He was ready to explore another part of his territory when a faint whimper caught his attention, a weak, pitiful noise from the denser woods beyond the clearing. Tawny froze, ears perked. He recognized the sound, a young creature in distress. His first instinct was to dismiss it. He had no patience for the frail. Survival in the wild demanded independence. Yet the whimper persisted, growing more urgent. Curiosity, and perhaps a faint spark of something long dormant, urged him to investigate. He crept cautiously into the thick underbrush, his body low. The scent grew stronger, a young dog, a pup. Rounding a cluster of rhododendrons, he saw it. A German scout herd puppy, barely a few months old, ensnared in a thorny vine. Its coat, meant to be a striking black and tan, was caked with mud and leaves. Its eyes, wide with fear and confusion, locked onto Tawny as it struggled feebly, yelping as the thorns bit deeper. It was lost, separated from its owner, utterly defenseless. Tawny observed, his face impassive. He could turn away. The pup wasn't his burden, just another victim of the forest's unforgiving rules. But something stopped him. Maybe the pup's sheer helplessness, the way it gazed at him with a mix of terror and hope. Perhaps it stirred a distant memory of his own kittenhood, before he'd become the toughened survivor he was now. He couldn't name the feeling, but he couldn't abandon it. Approaching warily, he made a soft chirping noise, one he hadn't used since his youth. The puppy stilled, watching him, its tail giving a hesitant wag. Tawny gently tugged at the vine with his paw, freeing it from the pup's leg. The puppy yelped but seemed to sense Tawny's intent. Once untangled, it collapsed, exhausted, and licked Tawny's paw in timid gratitude. Tawny flinched, unaccustomed to such gestures. He scanned the woods. No trace of the pup's owner, no human scent nearby. The puppy had been alone for some time. As the sun dipped, casting long shadows through the trees, the air chilled. The puppy shivered, pressing against Tawny's side. Despite his preference for solitude, Tawny didn't pull away. He felt the pup's frail frame trembling, heard its faint, plaintive breaths. He knew it wouldn't survive the night alone. Glancing toward the clearing and the distant glow of Sheltervale, he weighed the risks of the human world: cars, hostile dogs, people wary of strays. But the wilderness offered the pup no chance. A surprising resolve formed. He would guide it toward the town, toward possible aid. It was a gamble, but one he felt compelled to take. He began walking slowly toward the forest's edge, the puppy limping weakly behind. Tawny paused often, waiting for it to catch up. The night hummed with forest sounds, owls hooting, leaves rustling, a coyote's far-off howl. The pup whimpered, staying close to Tawny's side. For the first time in years, the cat felt a weight of duty, a responsibility he hadn't sought but couldn't shed. The wild had united them, an unlikely duo bound by loss and a shared fight to survive. Morning broke, the sun a faint glow through the tall canopy, offering little warmth. Tawny stirred, stiff and hungry. The puppy lay curled beside him, its head on his flank, still asleep, its breathing shallow. He nudged it gently. It blinked awake, whining softly. Tawny knew they had to press on. Lingering in the woods would only weaken the pup further. He resumed their trek, the puppy stumbling after him, its legs unsteady on the rugged terrain of tangled roots, fallen logs, and rocky outcrops. Tawny navigated with ease, but the pup was clumsy, tripping often and whimpering. Tawny waited, his patience thinning, yet he couldn't abandon it. Hunger gnawed at him. He hadn't eaten properly since the picnic scraps. Spotting a mouse in the undergrowth, he pounced, dispatching it swiftly. He devoured most of it, the bones crunching, but guilt flickered as he saw the pup's hungry eyes. After a pause, he nudged the rest toward it. Not much, but something. The pup ate eagerly, its tail wagging faintly, and licked Tawny's paw again. The cat found the gesture less bothersome now, startled to realize he was beginning to care. Caring was dangerous. It meant weakness, a luxury he couldn't afford. The pup's condition worsened, its coat dull, eyes sunken, steps faltering. Tawny knew time was running out. Thirst plagued them both. They hadn't found water since a stream near where he'd freed the pup. His throat was dry, and the pup's tongue lolled, its breathing labored. Recalling a creek near the town's edge, he veered toward it, hoping it still flowed. The journey was grueling. The pup collapsed repeatedly, trembling. Tawny nudged it to keep moving, feeling his own strength wane. At last, they reached the creek. A mere trickle, but enough. Tawny drank, the cool water easing his parched throat. The pup drank greedily, its body shaking. The water revived them briefly, but it wasn't enough. They rested by the creek, the pup dozing fitfully, Tawny alert. The woods were thinning, giving way to fields. Sheltervale's rooftops appeared in the distance, wood smoke and cooking smells drifting on the breeze. The pup, sensing humans, whined and tugged toward the town. Tawny grew warier. Cars, dogs, and unkind people loomed as threats. He stuck to the field's edges, using tall grass for cover. The pup stumbled beside him, oblivious to danger. A car roared past on a nearby road, its noise terrifying the pup, which cowered against Tawny. He hissed, fur bristling, realizing their vulnerability. Urging the pup to hurry, they neared the town's outskirts. Just yards from Sheltervale's first houses, the pup's strength faded, its limp worsening. Tawny spotted an overgrown garden behind a house, a safe spot to rest. Guiding the pup through a hedge gap, they collapsed in the tall grass, hidden. Their shared ordeal had forged a fragile bond, an alliance against the world's dangers. Tawny, the solitary stray, now bore the weight of caring for a creature more vulnerable than himself. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the garden, creating cool patches of shade. Tawny, weary but vigilant, groomed his fur. The pup lay panting, eyes half closed. Sheltervale's sounds, children playing, a lawnmower humming, a church bell's faint clang, floated on the breeze. Tawny studied the houses, older homes, some with tidy gardens, others neglected like their hiding spot. This quiet street, where neighbors knew each other, felt worlds apart from the city streets of his youth before he'd found this mountain haven. Staying hidden wasn't a long-term plan. The pup needed food and care, and Tawny needed to gauge the risks of venturing deeper into town. He knew Sheltervale's edges from scavenging, but avoided humans. The pup whimpered, trying to stand but collapsing, its eyes pleading. Tawny felt a pang of empathy, still grappling with his instincts. He decided to scout, seeking signs of help, an open door, a bowl of pet food, a hint of kindness, while watching for threats like dogs or hostile people. Nudging the pup to stay, he slipped through the hedge onto the sidewalk, moving low, senses sharp. He passed a house where an elderly woman tended a colorful flower garden, humming softly in a faded dress and straw hat. She seemed gentle. Another house had a dog bowl, but a barking dog deterred him. A cat flap on another door carried a rival Tom's scent. Hearing children's laughter, he saw kids playing ball in a park, their joy stirring a fleeting longing for a life he'd never known. Shaking it off, he returned to the garden. The woman with the flowers seemed the safest bet, kind, her home quiet. Tawny nudged the pup to follow. It struggled to its feet, limping painfully. They crept toward the woman's house. The pup, driven by desperation, whined loudly and staggered toward her, tail wagging weakly. Startled, the woman turned, her expression softening at the pup's frail form. "Well, hello, little one," she said, kneeling. "You look lost and hungry." The pup collapsed at her feet. Tawny watched from the hedge's shadows, ready to bolt, but sensing her kindness. Clara, as the woman was called, gently lifted the trembling pup, cradling its fragile frame. Her heart ached. She'd always loved animals, having cared for many strays. "You poor thing," she murmured, stroking its head. "Your skin and bones." She carried it into her cozy bungalow, scented with lavender and fresh bread, filled with old furniture and knickknacks. Placing the pup on a soft rug, she examined it. Matted fur, ticks, sores on its paws. A German scout herd, maybe 4 months old, in dire shape. She gave it water, which it drank eagerly, and warmed leftover chicken and rice, which it devoured. Filling a basin with pet shampoo, she bathed it gently, removing grime and ticks. The pup whimpered but allowed her care, its tail wagging faintly. As she dried it, she noticed movement outside, a flash of orange fur, amber eyes watching. It was the ginger cat she'd seen before, wary and elusive. Realizing the cat had likely led the pup to her, she felt admiration for its compassion. Clara filled a bowl with milk and set it on the porch for the cat, then returned to the pup, now asleep on the rug. Sitting in her armchair, she felt contentment. Alone since her husband's death 5 years ago, her house had felt empty. Caring for the pup, and perhaps the cat, filled a void. She knew she couldn't keep the pup. Her age and health couldn't handle a lively German scout herd, but she'd nurture it for now. Glancing outside, she saw the cat lapping the milk cautiously. Smiling, she sensed this unlikely pair would change her life. The milk bowl emptied. Tawny, still on Clara's porch, licked his whiskers. He felt tentative relief. The pup, Scout, as he'd heard Clara call it, was safe for now. The woman's kindness seemed genuine, her home warm. Through the window, he saw Scout asleep on the rug, cleaner, calmer. Tawny felt a mix of pride, unease, and something new. A loner, he wasn't used to connection. This bond with Scout and Clara unsettled him. Over days, a routine formed. Clara tended Scout devotedly, feeding him small meals, treating his worms and sores. She took him for short yard walks. Tawny watched from the garden, accepting Clara's food, kibble and tuna, a feast compared to scraps. He grew comfortable, letting her stroke him, though he stayed outside, valuing freedom. Scout thrived. His coat shone, eyes brightened, energy returned. He tried playing with Tawny, who hissed but tolerated him. Lying together in the sun, Scout's head on Tawny's flank, a bond grew from their shared trial. Clara, watching them, felt fulfilled. She'd given them sanctuary. She searched for Scout's owners, posting flyers and calling the shelter, but no one claimed him. Knowing she couldn't keep him, she hoped for a good home. One evening, watching them play, she felt sadness. She'd grown fond of Scout, and even Tawny would miss him. Their friendship, born in hardship, had brightened her life. A week later, her grandson Daniel visited. A kind young farmer, He lived an hour away. Scout greeted him joyfully. Clara shared their story, Scout and Tawny's journey, their bond. Daniel, moved, played with Scout, who adored him. Over tea, Clara suggested Daniel take Scout. He needs someone who can keep up with him, she said. Daniel, always wanting a dog, agreed, promising Scout a good life on his farm. Clara felt relief and sorrow. The next morning, Daniel prepared to leave with Scout in a crate. Scout, sensing change, whined, looking at Clara and Tawny. Tawny watched, his eyes betraying faint sadness. As the truck drove off, Scout barked softly, gazing at Tawny until it vanished. Silence fell. Clara comforted Tawny, who accepted it quietly. Scout's absence left a void. The yard felt empty without Scout's energy. Tawny roamed the garden, sniffing where Scout had played. Clara left food, but he ate little, missing Scout's warmth. Clara, too, felt the loss, her house quieter. He'll be happy, she told Tawny, stroking him. He leaned into her, a rare gesture, but restlessness grew. He needed his old life. Licking her hand in thanks, he left for the park. Back at the clearing, now quiet, Tawny reclaimed his territory, hunting and marking boundaries. But the emptiness lingered. He sat where he and Scout had emerged, staring toward Clara's house. He could return, she'd welcome him, but independence held him. Scout had changed him, teaching him compassion and loss. Though alone again, he carried their memory, a bittersweet ache of connection in his solitary life.